Hello. The other day I tried to go into what astrocartography is, and I tried to record a video that actually ended up being like 40 minutes of footage, and I lost that footage. Today I'm going to be going into how to pull up your astrocartography. I'm going to be a little vague and keep this short and simple because losing 40 minutes of the same footage is very defeating. Also, keep in mind I write very thorough explanations about everything astrocartography on my Patreon, and you can also buy like $8 tarot and astrology readings. It's like a one fee for all kind of deal, and yeah, so just check it out. Consider supporting me. It's only $8 a month. You can cancel anytime. It helps me put food in my mouth. You're going to go to astro.com. Once you go to astro.com, you're going to go into the top left sidebar for extended selection. Go to Astro Travel at the bottom. Click that, and then you're going to add a new birth chart information. Once you add that in, you're going to hit go, and it's going to take you to your astrocartography. You're going to see a bunch of lines on a map. It's going to have different little glyphs at the top, and it's important to keep in mind all the lines are color coded to represent different planets or different asteroids or things like that, or points in your chart, and I'm just going to kind of go over all of the meanings of each line. That way you can get a quick overview of everything. So malefic planets are the planets that are very tense. They're sticky. Finding out which planet is your malefic is a whole other video. I do think I covered this before though, but you can find out if you have a day or night chart on my Twitter, or I will try to see if I made another video and link that somewhere. But basically, if your sun is below your ascendant, you have a night chart. If your sun is above your ascendant, also pay attention to the degrees, because you could have your sun on the opposite house in your 6th house. Yeah, 6th house, and it could be higher than your ascendant. Your ascendant could be like lower. So keep that in mind. But basically, yeah, if you have a day or a night chart, your malefic planets, if your night chart, you have Saturn as a malefic. If you have a day chart, your Mars is your malefic. So malefic planets in general, those lines encourage growth. They are also incredibly transformative, arguably sometimes tense and painful and uncomfortable to live in or travel to. Do I think that living in a Saturn or Mars line are necessarily bad or good? Technically, nothing in astrology is ever going to be just bad or just good. Everything's always going to have like a good and bad, or kind of like a mixed bag. Everything in astrology is just a mixed bag. So keeping in mind there's never just like one definitive answer is basically all you need to know about astrology ever. Your Saturn lines encourage great growth and enlightenment. Also can be incredibly challenging. You can feel like you have so many responsibilities. It can be very burdensome too, but it can also, again, be enlightening, be informational. Mercury lines are really fun because they are very enlightening. They're very nourishing of your mind. It's very expansive of your mind, very creative kind of energy. Living or traveling to a Mercury line is very good if you're trying to learn a new skill set or study something about that area. Now your Mars lines, because I got distracted and have ADD, your Mars lines are kind of more challenging, also in very arguably explosive ways or transformative ways. I would want to go to my Mars line if I was like wanting to do some kind of physical activity, like say I wanted to play soccer or something, because when I think of Mars it's very action-packed, action-based. I did see Alyssa Sharp on YouTube mention how Mars lines are good for weight loss or fitness goals, but I would like to stay away from bodily astrology just because of my body dysmorphia and how I know that could be triggering for some people. And Jupiter lines are the benefit. Really good energy, fun, fresh energy, but also energy that can make you arguably lazy. I think of Jupiter as kind of the king that sits on the throne and gets handed things. However, it can be very blessing and rewarding, both financially and also just personally in general, but it can also just make you a bit not as challenged as you should be. South Node, Coli, Chiron lines, or not really Chiron, more just South Node, Coli, and Descendant lines and Moon lines can all feel very comforting and nurturing, kind of like you've been there already before, you know everything before. It's very like a weird, strange familiarity, but it can also hold you back. So it's important to keep in mind that living near your Coli, Descendant, or Moon lines can be very nurturing and very safe and comfortable, but not necessarily good in terms of growth. However, on the opposite, North Node, Midheaven, Ascendant, North Node, Midheaven, yeah, I think that's it, can be very good for growth They can feel very unfamiliar. Everything just feels very forlorn and slightly uncomfortable, but they can be really good at coming into your highest sense of self. Midheaven lines, great for money, because that's literally job and career. Yeah, Venus lines are good for like selfies. I would say influencers, if you like wanted to travel to your Venus line. Also probably good for like romantic honeymoon ventures. Granted, you would probably want to also factor in your partner's astrocartography as well. I would say very good for selfies though, or art in general, just because the more creative you probably are, the more fun, loving, and easygoing. However, I will say Venus lines could probably arguably be very much focused around justice, maybe even activism. People forget that that we used to consider Venus as the goddess of war as much as the goddess of love. So those are just things to consider. And then Chiron lines, I know I live near my Chiron line, and it's very, I would say, traumatic. I'm not gonna lie, I do feel like living near my Chiron line has been incredibly intense, gone through so much in this area, but I also feel like it's made me grow so much. It's made me very strong. You know, we do call Chiron the wounded healer. I don't know why I'm using parentheses, because it's the truth, but I do feel like it's a very intense, kind of enlightening line. Very emotionally heavy though. I would say in terms of least comfortable lines in general in astrocartography, I would personally say Saturn, Mars, Chiron, Imam Coli, and arguably Moon. The sun, however, is very, how do I say? The sun lines are going to feel very comfortable. Like, you're going to feel like everything that you know, expressing your authentic self there is going to be very perceived in a positive way. People are going to have a natural acceptance and understanding for you. People are probably going to have more patience for you. It's just going to feel like very like at home. I also feel like it's probably going to encourage you to be more extroverted or ambiverted, and I do feel like it's good in general for like putting yourself out there. Maybe if you were single or something, traveling to like a sun line would be really exciting for your overall growth. I do think, again, midheaven or ascendant lines might feel a little bit more uncomfortable, but Imam Coli and descendant lines will kind of hold you back. So there's kind of a double-edged sword from both. Like everything in astrology, there's good and bad in every area. Just like Chiron lines might be very painful at times, but also very healing and peaceful as well. Everything is always going to be like kind of a catch-22, so it's important to just think of that and take it with a grain of salt when you navigate all of your lines. That way, if you're seeing like one specific area versus another, you're not necessarily applying a good or bad mindset to it. I do know Neptune lines are very mystifying and dreamy. It's kind of like the perfect place to maybe write a sci-fi novel. I'm obsessed with my Neptune lines. I think it's like right through New York City and Washington DC, and every time I go there I feel like I'm just like at Disneyland. Like it just feels like heaven. I have lived in New York City when I was little, so that could also be tied to like why I feel nostalgic towards New York City, but I would definitely live there if I could. However, arguably the planet Neptune might be very idealistic and creative and inventive, but it could also be disillusioning and essentially delusional. So maybe it wouldn't be the most humbling experience if I lived there. My head would always be in the clouds. And then Uranus lines are very intense and erratic. Uranus is like technology going off of modern astrology, so everything's electric, everything is very magnified. I would say the energy might feel like taking too much energy drinks or having too many shots of espresso and just like having to navigate. Maybe sleeping in your Uranus line arguably would be hard, but that's more of a theory-based assumption, not actually fact. And then your Pluto line is going to be very transformative and intense and dark and edgelord kind of vibes, but I would also say that it's kind of like if you can avoid going to a haunted house, wouldn't you? I don't know, maybe I would, but maybe if you're like really into scaring yourself, just kidding. I wouldn't say it's all scary. I do think it can be very phoenix rising from the ashes growth, like incredible, immeasurable kind of transformations. Definitely intense for altering your dramatic changes in general, but I would say if you can avoid that level of intensity, why not? I don't know. That just depends on like the kind of person you are and like if you're, you know, what kind of things you're looking for. So those are just all really important kind of factors or notes to touch on when taking all of it into consideration. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure just my personal observations. But if you did like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you feel like maybe I was too brief, keep in mind I did write full assessments and analysis on everything on my Patreon, individual assessments of every part of this. And yeah, so please consider supporting me, and I will see you in my next video.